Hello, everyone. You're listening to Lipstick and Leather, and on the phone with me is Chris Van Dahl. How's your day treating you today, Chris?
I can't complain, man. How are you?
It's a very good day here, for sure. Now, with the Cherry Street reissue, what are some of your fondest memories of the self-titled Cherry Street album?
Wow. Okay. Right out of the gate. So let's see. Fondest memories. I think that has everything to do with where we were in the moment. Because, I mean, that was like a snapshot in time. That was the 80s. And we were, technically, the band was living in Orange County, or behind the orange curtain, as we like to refer to it. But we spend a lot of time in L.A. on the Sunset Strip, which is, I think at that time especially, a place every aspiring young rock band dreamed about being. So we came from our humble beginnings. Almost all the guys in the band at one point or another were from Michigan. In fact, Taz and I drove out to L.A. from Michigan in a beat-up old van. And just being there with that happening, the energy and the way things were, the bands that were breaking at that time, and finding ourselves becoming friends with guys that were, I don't know, a year before, pictures on our bedroom walls, you know what I mean, posters and stuff like that, and just discovering what it really meant to be a part of that scene. There's nothing like it. If you weren't there, there's just no good way to describe it. I think that's my fondest memory of just getting out there, being there, and making things happen.
Awesome. Now, with the fast selling out of the Cherry Street reissue, could we possibly expect maybe a reissue of Squeeze It Dry down the road? Has there been any talks of that?
Interesting that you should ask that question, because I just found out, or I was just informed, that yes, as a matter of fact, that is going to be reissued. So the answer to your question is, yeah, you can. You can look for it and you can expect it. And I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but it is going to happen.
Do you think there'll be any bonus tracks on it?
I can't tell you one way or another. I can tell you that there were songs recorded that were never released. And what happened to those songs, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anybody in the band actually has versions of those. Tom may actually at this point have the masters, and what it would take to finish those songs and get them mixed up. And when I say I don't mean mixed up, I mean mixed as in, in the studio. I really don't know. But I mean, anything is possible.
Now, when can we expect the Chris Van Dahl autobiography, sorry?
Fair question. That's actually something that I legitimately started some years back. I was performing for a company out of Las Vegas called Legends in Concert, and I was actually on a ship for about 6 months with a lot of free time. So I started writing it, and then I got back into the real world after that run was over, and just have not had a chance to pick it back up again. I can't tell you. Maybe after I'm dead. Right now, I'm just too busy living to take time out to finish writing it. There are good stories in there, I will say that. And there are a lot of people that are happy that it's not being released right now because of some of those stories.
Well, I hope it does get released in the new year sometime soon then.
Yeah, I know. Maybe excerpts. We'll see. It would be an interesting read, that's for sure.
Fair enough. Now, I love the tracks I've heard off the Angels and Veins CD, and obviously the 1973 video. Now, will the full-length CD be released maybe in the coming next little while?
It's definitely going to get released, and I hate to draw comparisons. This is, in my mind, it's starting to feel like the Chinese Democracy album with Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses. It's like, I started this thing back in 2016. And the real story behind it is Angels in Vain came about because I was performing as Steven Tyler all over the world for Legends in Concert.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I was doing 11 shows a week. That's 6 nights a week, basically 2 shows a day, all over the country. And I was losing myself in it. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it was a fantastic gig. It's like playing some of the greatest music ever written, performing as one of the greatest frontmen that's ever existed. It was great, but I was losing myself. So I approached Taz, was, one of the guitar players in Cherry Street, lifelong friends, and I said, hey, man, do you want to do a record? And the idea was we're going to write this album, song at a time. It wasn't about anything. It wasn't about releasing it or making money, or it was just we wanted to write something for ourselves that we liked. We didn't care if anybody else liked it or not. But so what happened was, as we got going on this thing, I got a telephone call from Stacy Blaze, who was the lead guitar player in LA Guns at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is right around when David Bowie passed away. And he said, hey, listen, he goes, we're doing a charity in Bowie's name, and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in coming out and singing. Some, because there are different people, a bunch of different people are going to be doing this. And for the first time in the longest time, I actually had some free time, and I was like, yeah, sure, I would do that. And he's like, well, really cool. He goes, there's a lot of great people on it, different artists that are well known from, a lot of different 80s bands and stuff. So that was a plan. And what happened was the event never took place because there was a mix-up with the venue or something like that. And I was in the process of working on this record with Taz, and he asked me to do something else Stacey did. And I think what it was, I was like, I'd love to, man, but I really can't. Besides, I'm working on this record. And he said, well, what record? And I went, oh. And he's like, no, seriously, what record? And I told him what was going on. I said, it's no big deal. He said, well, send me it. I want to listen to some of this stuff. So I thought about it for a little while, and I did. I sent it off to him. Well, later that evening, I got a phone call, and he's like, I just got off the phone with Eric Stacey from Faster Pussycat. And I hadn't known Eric at that point. He's like, we want to be the band. I said, what do you mean? He goes, we want to be the band. We want to do this. We want to make this into a real band. Because at that point, it was just Taz and I doing everything. Mm-hmm. And I mean everything. So I approached Taz about it, and he said, well, we can give it a shot. But like I said, there was never really a plan in place. Well, one thing led to another, and people got really, really excited about it. At one time, I was on Facebook, and it was like 100,000 people are talking about this. And I was like, holy crap. I was just amazed that anybody cared, let alone that many people. So it was a passion project. It was something that we did out of love, and it became something else because so many people got so interested in it so quickly. It was like, well, we need to tour, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. I said, we don't need to do anything but take our time and write a great record. But some of these guys were dependent on what they were doing as musicians for making a living. We all were. We had our different things that we were doing. Mm-hmm. And it just, at the end of the day, because of everybody's different needs, it didn't pan out. So one thing led to another. Again, it's like we all have our own things that we're doing. And it's just been really difficult to get things finished, because it's got to be a priority. And life is always moving forward. So we've got almost an entire album in the can. We could release it now. I mean, there are enough songs to do it. But Taz and I have been talking about it. It's like we just want one more barn burner, and we just haven't had the time to write it. He's playing with Union Underground, and they're getting ready to start doing live shows. What's that? The other guy he was playing with. Taz does a lot of national artist stuff because he's a producer engineer as well as a hired guy who plays with a lot of different bands. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of a timing thing. So it's a really long answer to a really simple question. And in a nutshell, is yes, the album will get released. When exactly, I just don't know.
Awesome. Now, there was talks of a project called the Black Beauties with Taz. Now, what's the status on that project?
It's actually the same thing. Black
Ah,
Beauties was the starter name for what eventually became Angels in Vain. So it's just that the name changed. It's not a different band really.
gotcha. Now, on to your Aerosmith tribute band, Aerosmith. Now, there was talks of an Aerosmith pilot episode.
Actually, that's Aeromyth, not Aerosmith.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know who Aerosmith is, but man, they've got a lawsuit coming. That's too close.
Right. Now, there was talks of a pilot episode of a reality show being filmed at Ramos Concert Lounge in Riverside in 2010. Now, how much of this reality show is filmed, and will it ever be released down the road?
Okay, so as a band, we were actually approached on several different occasions by different to do things, and at one point we actually had a crew following us around. And I can't remember the reason exactly, but this kind of stuff happens all the time, and it didn't materialize. The footage exists. I think at the end of the day, they want us to sign everything over to them, and they weren't compensating the guys in the band in any way, shape, form, and it just wasn't right. So I think that's why we ended up taking it. But yeah, I mean, they followed us around with a crew for a while, and I don't really know what came of the footage. They didn't have a legal right to release it, so unless we would get a phone call and agree as a collective, I don't see that happening. Also, the members in the band changed, so that would be a completely different show then than it would be, 3 years ago, which is the last time I think it was I performed with the band.
Mm-hmm. Now, Aerosmith released, you guys did a studio version of Amazing, am I correct?
Nah, we never actually recorded a studio version of anything.
Okay.
I mean, we would sometimes record live rehearsals to see if we were getting it right. And when I say record, I mean actually record. I had a studio. Neil and I shared a space. It was Neil's music. He's the Brad Whitford in the band. Mm-hmm. And I had a space in his music store called Purple Audio Productions. I had a recording studio in there. And we had a complete recording setup. The band would rehearse, and I could record us live. But never with the intention of deliberately releasing anything. So I'm curious where you heard that, and if that recording actually exists and is out in the world.
I wish I heard. I just remember hearing that many, many years ago that there was talks of it. So.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess anything is possible. Something could have got out, and I could have played something for someone, and they could have been recording it over the phone. I don't know. Stuff always, it always finds a way. It mm-hmm. always finds its way out the door, whether you mean it to or not. So, who knows?
Now, did your cover band, Trix Banshee, record any original material?
Oh, man! Woo! You did your homework. Wow. We did. I don't have a recording of any of that stuff, but I can tell you that a lot of it became early Cherry Street.
Oh.
Because those are songs that Taz and I had written when we first got together, and Trix Banshee was a cover band that we essentially formed to get our chop site before becoming an original band. And that's a pretty common way, bands go about doing things in the Midwest. We're both from Michigan. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to make any kind of money at all, you're playing other people's music. Don't give a shit about yours. So, yeah, I think that we wrote and recorded, but I don't think anything serious until we became Cherry Street. And that would have happened in California after we moved out to Orange County.
Right. Now, what about your band Streetwise? Was any material recorded?
Yeah, we actually recorded some stuff. The thing about that is that the guitar player in that band, a guy named Scott King, close friend to this day, that guy is one of the most amazing singer-songwriters I've ever known in my life. That guy should have been huge far better singer than I could ever hope to be, and just an incredible guitarist. I just don't think he was ever positioned properly to get where he deserved to go. But we did record. I don't have any of those recordings. I mean, for many, many years, I had a massive, as probably most musicians out there listening do, but I had a huge box of cassette tapes. Back in the day, that's how we would record stuff. You know, we'd have a boombox with a cassette tape, and we'd pop it in there and throw a blanket over it so it wouldn't distort too badly, and hit play and record. Now everything's digital. It's a completely different world. But I'm sure there's stuff out there somewhere.
Awesome. Now, back in 2009, there was talks of the original band Tango getting back together with yourself singing. Did anything get finished past rehearsals?
Okay, so here's how that came about. I was in a band with Jimmy Crespo.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of your listeners who do not know, Jimmy Crespo was the guitar player that replaced Joe Perry in Aerosmith from like 79 to 84, 85. I'm not sure exactly about the years, so don't quote me on that. You know, your readers can do their homework if they're interested at all. But Jimmy, phenomenal guitar player. Jimmy and I started playing together. We decided to form a band, and we were looking for players. And Kyle Kinderling, or Kyle, who was the bass player in Bang Tango, was the first guy to come to mind. Toured when I was singing with LA Guns. We toured Bang Tango for a while, and Kyle's just an amazing cat. Like, you know, just fantastic. Everything you'd want, you know, in a stage persona, and a cool guy, and amazing player. So when we're talking about band members, Kyle came to mind. So Kyle and I got together. He joined the band, so we were both in Crust together. And I got a phone call one day, and I can't remember if it was Kyle that called me or Mark Knight, who was one of the guitarists in Tango.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Kyle. And he said, listen, he goes, you know, this has been right in front of me all along. I didn't think about it, but, you know, we're talking about rebooting Bang Tango, and we're wondering if you'd be interested in singing for the band. And, you know, I'd always been a fan. You know, I've been a fan of the guys. I've been a fan of the music. I thought there was something special there that never got enough a shot. I think if they would have been around a little longer, if they kept it together, or if they, you know, proper labels, they would have developed into something really special. But having said that, Kyle and Mark came over, and we sat around my living room, and we talked for hours. And I was like, look, man, I think you guys should work it out and get the original band back together. But sans that, if you're serious about doing this, you really want to do it, yes, I would be interested. You know, it's just, we have to work around everybody's schedule. And I think what happened after that is we talked about it for a while, and everybody got busy. Everybody had different things going. And before it ever really had a chance to happen, I ended up doing the Legends in Concert thing. And because the schedule was so demanding, I didn't have time. And then those guys got busy, and then they didn't have time. And then they eventually worked things out with Joe, at least for a while, and they did the reunion thing. And I'm happy for them that they did that. And we all remain friends. But that's the story of Bang Tango. It never really got off the ground. Although it would have been cool to see what would have happened, because these guys are amazing.
Definitely. Now, on the Jimmy Crespo project, the lineup was awesome. It was Phil Verone, Michael Ellis, obviously yourself, and Kyle, and Jimmy, of course. Did anything get recorded or rehearsals?
Jimmy and I actually wrote together.
Ooh.
And I've never talked about this before, so that's kind of an interesting question. Yes, Jimmy and I started writing. I brought over a studio rig, and we got some songs in the bag, although nobody has ever heard them, and we've never released them. So I don't know if they're ever going to see the light of day. I've got a lot of music that's never been released. I'm starting to discover this conversation is kind of an awakening. I've got an entire album with Kenny Olson, the lead guitar player from Kid Rock, Adam Curry, who's the bass player for Candlebox, and Shannon Boone, who's the drummer for the Howling Diablos. Actually, he went on the Puddle of Mud, I think, come to think of it.
Yeah, he did. You guys got 13 tracks, I believe, right, for Pack of Wolves were recorded?
Oh, I'll just wait for you to ask the question. At least. We probably recorded enough songs for a dub album.
Wow.
So, yeah, and that never got released, and the reason for that was red tape. I'm talking legal red tape, like serious legal red tape with the Kid Rock camp. So it's sitting there. In fact, I think I've talked to Kenny about it a couple of times. I think it was, I don't know, just for the pandemic, I was on a plane, and sure enough, there was Kenny. And we ended up sitting next to each other and talking about it. And he's like, hey, we should do something. Let's release that record. And once a year that'll come up, or once every other year that'll come up, and we just, I don't know, it doesn't happen. But the primary reasons came from over there, because he quit Kid Rock to do this. And I mean, it was his decision to do it, and he had many, many other reasons for sure. But he was still in the band when we formed Pack of Wolves, and he just decided he didn't want to go back to doing Kid Rock anymore. And I think there were just problems with that situation all around. The writing was on the wall. So, but there's that.
Fair enough.